Hello, welcome back to Just Another Football Podcast. Excuse the white wall and the awful audio. Things have changed, guys, since we last spoke. I've been last here 3 weeks ago. But no, I'm very excited. This is the last episode of the season. We'll hand out awards, individual awards, but the big one will be Short King of the season, which is arguably the most exciting moment of the entire podcast all season long. But would also be remiss of us not to talk about Inter Miami signing Lionel Messi. Mental. There's a few funny things about that actually that are like union related and MLS related that I'm really keen to talk about. But the Champions League final also happened yesterday. Guys, how are you doing? We need to catch up. I haven't spoken to you guys in 3 weeks.
Yeah, no, but good, mate. And you're too apologetic as well, Ali. See, the thing is, you could have put a positive spin on this all. Like, yes,
Go on.
You've got subpar audio. Yes, your background's less than ideal. But in spite of all this, you've made it here for the last recording of the season. You've gone through all this adversity, and you've managed to join us for the evening. So, well done to you, sir. Congratulations.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Okay. Well, the Champions League. I did watch the Champions League final. The reason why all this is happening is I'm helping my twin brother move. Kareem, shout out to him. Just move apartments that are like sort of near each other. So it hasn't been too tiring. But yeah, the Champions League final viewing was in danger. But I did watch. I watched it in a Liverpool themed pub. But it was strange because there were like photos of the Queen and Union Jacks and stuff like that, and I didn't feel like. And I look up at the ceiling and there's loads of Spurs scarves. It was weird. It was really strange. But apparently it was Liverpool themed.
What was the
a unique viewing?
From what you could gauge, who were people pulling for? Because obviously, like, you don't really root for English teams, but then there's the sort of Liverpool Man United angle to it all, where they're replicating Man United's greatest ever achievement in doing the treble. So
yeah, so my guess would be that this is one of the very few or only soccer viewing pubs in the area. So there were people rooting for both. When Rodri scored, there were roars. Like it got pretty loud. When Inter kept missing chances, it got pretty loud. So I would say it was like kind of 50-50, to be honest. But yeah, maybe people were just yelping and excited. Maybe there were neutrals that were like, someone scored. And it got loud. I don't know. I would say it was probably 50-50. But yeah, it was a strange one. But it was a fun game, except the first half. We just been working all day, and I was actually dozing out. Like I was doing this. First half was exceptionally boring. Second half, though, what if Lautaro Martinez squares it? What if Lukaku doesn't act defender? Which isn't the first time he's done it in his career. He's done it before. Yeah. What if Ederson doesn't save that corner last minute? You think about all that, and you wonder if Man City got a little bit lucky here, but they did win a treble, so what's up? As a Liverpool fan, I'm trying to put my side as much as possible. But I was pretty annoyed by the end.
They deserved it, didn't they? Like they're the best team in the world by absolute, fair margin, I'd say. And
they are.
My theory to why I wanted to support City is if Pep wins.
Ew! Chelsea fan.
Wait. My theory is if Pep wins a treble, then he's done it. Like he can't do anything more other than an invincible season, which I don't think he really cares about too much. He's done it. He will now hopefully leave City within the next year or so. Like he's done his job. It won't just be a continuous, right? He's just going to, unless he starts using it as like a sandbox environment where he can just do wacky stuff from now on.
He still does that from time to time.
He still does that. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. But I'm hoping that's it. Like he'll be less motivated now. He can just sort of do crazy stuff, get sacked or just leave, join somewhere like PSG and just rid the Premier League of probably the best manager Premier League's ever seen. Like if he stays for another 10 years, he does more than Fergie, in my opinion.
In a more competitive era as well.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
Yeah. I feel like this is the first time we're going to go into a season where we kind of know who's going to win the league. This hasn't happened. I would say this hasn't happened since Alex Ferguson was Man United manager. Even in cities like era of dominance, Liverpool were always looking about and won it once. Yeah, it's becoming a bit of a Bayern Munich in Germany or PSG in France. Man City are just the best, and all the rest are kind of catching up.
But I think to be fair to Pep, I think that's largely down to him, and that's
definitely.
him developing players and also bringing in the right talent, like the scouts. Obviously, the facilities he's got are exceptional, but their spending isn't like marginally crazy. Yes, again, they perhaps sort of backdated that spending, so the early sort of 2010s, they've built a foundation to then kick on, but comparatively they've not gone crazy with transfer spend. So I think Pep deserves a lot of credit, even though it may get tarnished and asterisks next to it if they do get a hefty sanction sort of sanction with the Premier League. But that's 2-3 years down the line, so he'll likely no longer be at the club.
Fingers crossed. Hopefully.
Fingers crossed.
Inshallah.
He's too good.
Yeah, he's too good.
He is too good.
Thoughts on the game, Harry? Because you're an Arsenal fan. And I don't know if you were thinking about how the Premier League season has gone in any way, and we're like, I don't want them to win here because
it raises an interesting point. Like even probably up to the start of the game yesterday, and when it was going on, I kind of had this inner dilemma going of actually what result I really wanted out of it, because on the one hand, don't like Man City. I don't like any English teams, but don't like Man City. They've just beaten us to a league. Never won a Champions League before, and neither have we. And it's sort of they're going to get to do it, obviously, and they have done it before us.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But then on the other hand, there's the kind of, we lost the league to a treble-winning team element to all of this, and the fact that actually Man United fans have been riding for Man City pretty much all season, along with other fans, only for them to then win the treble and replicate their club's greatest ever achievement. So a little bit of irony in that, but I think in truth, there's kind of just this inevitability about it all, and I thought that as soon as the game finished yesterday, it was kind of a is this it? Because this whole when will Man City win the Champions League narrative that's kind of been stirred up for the last 5 or 6 years, pretty much since Pep's been at Man City, and obviously they've had various different ways in which they've conspired not to win it in the past. But it all just felt like a little bit pretentious to me, because it just felt that I thought for a while they're the best team in Europe. They've won the Premier League, 5 in 7 years or whatever.
Yeah.
And at multiple points during that period, clearly been the best team in Europe. They just haven't got it done in the Champions League. It felt like to me that they would eventually get it done, and this was a good opportunity for them, because you're playing a team that you should beat on paper. And Inter were pretty good. I thought they put up a certainly respectable showing, given the fact that they have inferior players in pretty much every position. I thought they did the best with what they had, and you've mentioned it already, Ali. They had the moments, and as it is often in the Champions League, if you don't take those moments, and Man City have been on the receiving end of this before, you can sort of be unfortunate to come out on the losing side of it all. I think if you're looking at it kind of from a more tactical perspective with Man City, I think the difference for them this season compared to seasons gone by is they've added a level of pragmatism to their game, both sort of with the way they set up, but also the actual personnel they have. It's 4 proper defenders now and a defensive midfielder. It's 5 guys that, if the game gets tough, and you've seen it back-to-back weeks, they win a cup final 2-1 and they win the Champions League 1-0.
Yeah.
They're grinding it out in the last 5 minutes of those games, but you've got guys that value the art of defending, which you can't maybe have said about defenders they've had there in the past. And, we signed one of them probably in the summer in Zinchenko. But there's plenty of other ones. They got rid of Cancelo mid-season, and look how solid they've been since then. So I think in the Champions League, you do need that element to your game as much as being better than the opposition, which they are pretty much every time they step onto the football pitch. You very rarely see them outplayed. But you need to be able to sort of manage the moments at both ends. When your chances come, take them, and Haaland's been doing that for a lot of the season, and the other guys have chipped in. But when you have to defend and bunker down and make sure the opposition don't score, and you need your defenders to perform and you need your goalkeeper to perform, they've managed to get that in a lot of the games, not just in the Champions League either, in the Premier League down the stretch, in the FA Cup. In those big moments, those players have come up trumps for them. So it's sort of a begrudging congratulations, but if we're going back to sort of the Pep point about this all, I don't think there's any other manager that would have, from the situation they were in mid-season, and you can argue whether some of that was kind of his own making with the, he was messing about a little bit maybe with the team, being a bit too clever, but he's found a solution that ultimately has churned out 3 trophies and has won them the treble. So, you got to give it to him in that sense.
Absolutely. You make a lot of interesting points here, and a lot of things just kept popping up in my head. First of all,
monologue.
Yeah, Jack Grealish. You did. But it was good because I have a lot of thoughts. Jack Grealish. I don't know if it's either BT Sport or CBS. Which, by the way, CBS have absolutely, I think that's the best coverage of football I've ever seen. In the circumstances of American TV coverage of sports, which is just riddled with ads every 30 seconds, they have been phenomenal. And the channel before that was TNT, which is what BT Sport is switching to, isn't it? That's the same TNT that had Champions League before that, and they were the worst coverage of football I've ever seen. The worst coverage of sports I've ever seen. So beware. Beware. But no, it was on one of those two, and he was talking about how Guardiola. First of all, how he gets Guardiola now. But second of all, how Guardiola just comes up with these ideas, and you're like, how does he even come up with that? And we sit there and analyze. And I've written for a Man City dedicated blog for a period of time this season, up until I don't know, March time, and I will admit that the lack of a right back when it first started, it was a bit shaky, wasn't it? And Arsenal was still leading and 8 points ahead or whatever, and struggling against Southampton 2-0 in the League Cup. I think they used that system too. I was like, why isn't there coverage for a right back? And then when Liverpool tried a similar thing, I'm still extremely vulnerable to the flanks, in the flanks. But once they nailed it down. What Guardiola has said, and I know that definitely is a CBS thing. I think Kasper Schmeichel was asking him what the difference is between this season and last season, and seasons gone by where they didn't win the Champions League. Guardiola said they like defending now. Half the team is proper centre backs, or 4 proper centre backs, and as well as Rodri, who was a centre back for Spain in the Euros and the World Cup. They like defending now. And he kind of acknowledges the Akanji moment where he just leaves the ball and Lautaro Martinez, he squares it to Lukaku. He surely finishes it. Even if it is Lukaku, he will finish it. But yeah, even after acknowledging that, he's like, my players like defending now, and we kind of relish it. And yeah, that was just something that wasn't in our game, and they added that, and they're as perfect as one could imagine a team being. I haven't seen the Arsenal Invincibles, but yeah, man. Even Liverpool, when we went on 86 game with winning streak at home or whatever, that was a period of time where I thought, wow, I haven't seen a team as good as that. But we tired out and we fell off because it was just too intense. Their style definitely isn't that, and they're more direct now. So yeah, to your point, begrudging congratulations, and Matt, absolutely, from a footballing standpoint, definitely deserved. the best coach team in the country, and to be able to implement that system very quickly and make it so good is it's you have to kind of admit that. Yeah. Any more thoughts on the Champions League final, guys, before we move on to probably the bigger news?
The bigger news. No, just that into word on them. I think they gave a good showing of themselves. Like Italian teams, you sort of know what you're going to expect from them in a one-off game. Like they'll be organised. They'll kind of make it as difficult as can be. I think you just see that there's a complete qualitative mismatch. I mean, half of the Inter team nearly is Premier League cast-offs. So I kind of struggle to criticize them in any way for losing a game 1-0 to Man City. Like, as you said, they had good chances.
They were definitely
the better chances, definitely, in that second half. I mean, we say Man City, defended well, but there was a few moments where had Inter just had that little bit more ruthlessness, they could have taken the game into extra time, definitely. So, no, I mean, that's kind of all I would add on it.
Yeah.
And just the fact that I don't really feel anything about this kind of. One other thing, just in general, Champions League finals are always terrible. And I know I said this about World Cup finals, and then there was that brilliant 3-3 draw, which is one of the best games I've ever seen. But I was thinking about this earlier, of the Champions League finals in my lifetime, genuinely, I'm struggling to think of 3 that were good games. I really am. If you go back through them all, and part obviously is. You got teams play the Liverpool Real Madrid one, the 3-1 was one I came up with. I thought that was quite a good game. Obviously
that's the worst final I've ever seen.
Well, this is the thing. This is the thing.
Experience.
We all have kind of different perspectives, but I thought that one, comparatively speaking, was a good game. The Real Madrid Atleti ones were terrible. I know there was one that ended 4-1, but for 90 minutes it was 1-0 Atleti, and it was just dreadful. The second one was even worse, the 1-1, which went to penalties. The Spurs Liverpool game was just awful. Last year's final was awful. The PSG Bayern one was awful. The Chelsea Man City one was awful. They're never very good games, and I do get it because obviously you're playing for a lot. It ends up being it almost feels like when games go to extra time, and then the extra time is obviously you very rarely see a team win it in extra. It usually goes to penalties because both teams are sort of you get into this territory where one goal wins it. If I was at the Champions League final, it's kind of like an extension of that, where it the importance of scoring the first goal and being in a winning position. Teams obviously feel that weight. The game you're playing in as well. It just feels like to me they're very rarely good games. I can't think of one really that I could put up there as I say, that Liverpool Real Madrid one was the best I can remember in recent years, and you don't think that was a good game. So,
awful game.
There you go.
For obvious reasons.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about the finals from years past. The best one probably was 2011. The best team I've ever seen is Barcelona 2011. Just go back to that point about perfection. The teams are close to perfect. Barcelona 2011 is still my favorite ever. But yeah, this City one, in terms of faultlessness, it feels near perfect. But yeah, let's move on. We're done talking about City. Crazy. God.
Yeah.
Lionel Messi is coming to the United States of America. So, as soon as this is a topic that's been rinsed and repeated, but the funniest thing about it is that he can't even transfer until the 5th of July, which is when our window opens. We play Inter Miami on June 24th in Chester, Pennsylvania, south of Philadelphia. Tickets are sold out. Tickets will sold out the day Messi signed.
Because people thought, oh no,
he was going to be there. Yeah, that's a shocker. That is a shocker.
That is shocking.
Every single ticket for an Inter Miami game for the rest of the season has been sold out. Obviously, pending playoffs because they're probably going to do it. Yeah, every single game.
Wow.
Some tickets went up by 1,000%. Some tickets, there's this new weird tournament, which is like a group phase, then a knockout phase between clubs from the MLS and clubs from the Mexican League, Liga MX. It's called Leagues Cup. Tickets were selling it at Inter Miami's games for $4. They went up to like 100 something.
Jeez.
It is
There you
it
go.
is it is crazy. It is fundamentally paradigm shifting for what like finances and ticket sales will look like in MLS for as long as Messi's here. Now my fear is that he like spends a few years, goes to Argentina or whatever, or retires, and then things go back down again. The main thing I'd love to see happen is that our roster rules change for the like we should utilize this transfer to change a lot of things, but the main thing is roster rules. Because Messi's coming in on what's called a designated player contract. So there's a salary cap, and then Messi is outside of that salary cap. Every team is allowed like 3 players outside of the salary cap, no impact on it. So Messi's obviously a designated player. But for all the MLS games, we have something called US Open Cup, which is our cup competition. Leagues Cup is entirely new. Champions League, that's if you're going all the way, you can play something like 56, 57 games a season. And 20 senior players are allowed on your roster. So, like, why? Like, why? And I think if we open up a few more senior spots, it will be a more attractive league to players. But because you have only 20 players in the roster, you're filtering out players that are either academy prospects that don't have a space on your roster, or players from outside that would like to come in and try MLS, but there's so many restrictions. That being the main one. So yeah, that was kind of my main thoughts about it, but it definitely is crazy. Now
in terms of like players that have signed in the MLS before, like you've had David Beckham, you've had Zlatan. Like, does anyone sort of compare even remotely to what you've kind of just mentioned there in terms of ticket sales and to the reception to it all?
Yeah, now I wasn't. No, out of all the recent ones, like Kaká, I don't think Kaká he'll definitely have had an
Henry as
impact
well,
on
yeah.
sales,
Yeah.
not as much as Messi. I wasn't in the US to see Beckham go to LA Galaxy. I think Beckham to LA Galaxy remains the most impactful transfer of all time, pending what Messi does. Because David Beckham came in his prime.
Yeah.
Was like the first big name player in the US since Pele, and Pele didn't go very well, and the league kind of shut down when it came back, and New York Cosmos were no more in the top division, and but yeah, Beckham to MLS is essentially the starting point of MLS of as we know it now. Has its own franchise which brought in Messi, so any impact Messi has is ultimately roots back to Beckham coming in.
Yeah.
So
I think also
the short answer is
the recent success of the relative success of the US national team and the women's team as well, bringing sort of a little bit more eyes on soccer, football in the United States, and Pulisic being at least having sort of a star player. I know you had sort of Landon Donovan and Clint Dempsey, but they're not world class that people thought Pulisic could be. I think I don't know about yourself and your experience in the US, but it seems like a lot more people from the US are getting involved in soccer and football, a little bit more aware of it, and therefore someone like Messi could propel that a little bit greater. And obviously there'll be more actual interest now on the ground for you guys.
There's more neutral interest in Inter Miami from just Messi fans. Yesterday, Inter Miami played and lost 4-1 to New England, I want to say. I don't remember. But the lineups came out, and, MLS team, if you go on Twitter and go to any random team, go to Nashville SC's starting lineup announcement, you get 300 odd likes or whatever. That had 1,500 likes in a matter of 7 minutes. Like,
yeah,
it's just crazy. They're the Inter Miami are the most followed team on Instagram from Florida. Like they've gone over Miami Heat, who are in the NBA Finals right now. Yeah. In terms, my fear is that it doesn't mean that people will watch MLS. Like the vested interest in MLS is not going to change because here's the thing: because of our roster restrictions and because of our salary caps that are very restrictive, um, except if you're a DP, which you're only allowed 3 players anyway, you can like trade DP spots, so not every team has 3. But the quality suffers. Like there was a Mexican team that signed the left back for $15 million. You will never see an MLS team sign a random left back for $15 million now, like, or at any time. Our biggest signing this summer was a $200,000 signing, Philadelphia Union. So we are nowhere near the financial capability because of our restrictions. Teams are very rich, and a team like Inter Miami to be able to afford a contract for Lionel Messi, and the league itself to be able to afford the chance to say, "Hey, we'll give you a cut of the Apple TV deal. We'll give you a cut of the Adidas merch sales."
Yeah, that was the
All
other thing. The
that's
contract. It's just
yes,
crazy, isn't it?
it's really unique, and we can get to that just a tiny bit more because we want to get into our awards ultimately. But their teams are rich, but they can't use their money wisely. If you do an MLS save on Football Manager, it's so infuriating because you have all these players that are really good, and you want to bring them in, and they are interested, but you just don't have the cap space, or don't have the space on the roster, and it's it is frustrating. So, for example, the CONCACAF Champions League just had its final. LAFC lost to Club Leon. We remain with one MLS winner in the entire history of the CONCACAF Champions League, and all the others are Liga MX teams, Mexican league teams. So we're definitely capable of elevating our quality and therefore getting more people to watch MLS because ultimately a lot of players get into soccer because of one player, and I think Messi's the kind of guy that does that. Obviously, what Messi's performances will look like for Inter Miami is to be seen. But if you watch, and because of our culture, I feel like we like, or soccer fans in general. And I was raised in an Egyptian way of viewing sports, so it's not my perspective on watching it, but the sports culture in the United States is like, who's clutch, who's gonna come up with big moments, who's the biggest, fastest, strongest, best, and therefore when they watch an MLS game and find it not of the quality of European soccer, and I bet there are more soccer fans in the US that watch European soccer and not MLS as opposed to actually watching MLS as the main league. And I was that for a very long time. Yeah, my fear is that it still means that the eyes aren't on MLS soccer, on the league itself as a league, but it's still on Messi. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think the Saudi league. Ronaldo came in mid-season, so obviously broadcasting won't have spread out because you need to start a broadcasting deal at the start of the season, obviously, or I guess that's the way it works. But I wonder if the US is gonna secure broadcasting rights for the Saudi league, for example. I don't know how to watch the Saudi league in the US. If you know, tell me in the comments below. But I don't know. It hasn't been advertised. So yeah, I just wonder how fans will respond, how people will respond. But the initial indications, without Messi kicking a ball yet and not being able to do so for still a month, is that people are very much watching Messi and the rest of the league, and nobody's talking about the rest of the league. But I would really like for that to happen, given that the playoffs include so many teams. We have 18 teams in the playoff now, including the play-in round, which is the first round between 8th place and 9th place. It's confusing. But if Messi's going to take his team, which Inter Miami are in last place in the Eastern Conference, he has to take them at least to 9th. So they have a chance of making playoffs
as well. Yeah. I was looking forward
just
to seeing
level don't have. They have a temporary manager. They have a stand-in. They're probably gonna getting in Tata Martino, who managed Argentina and Barcelona before, 2014 and 16. I want to say. So yeah, we'll see. Basically, we'll see how it goes. See how fans respond. How MLS, takes the chance.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a tremendous amount of pressure for MLS. If I'm one of the executives now, I wouldn't be, I don't want to be. I wouldn't want to be in their position. Although it is a massive opportunity, but there's such pressure on U.S. soccer now to, make an name for itself in the world. Yeah, that's Messi to Inter Miami. We'll see how it goes. All right, it is time. Are you ready for the last segment of Just Another Football Podcast, season 3? By the way, congratulations, guys! We've made it through 3 seasons together.
Has it really been that long?
It has been. So we've been together, like you and I, and you guys and I, and Fergal for 2 years, 2 years and a few months, 3 months maybe. But the podcast as a podcast, it started with Rob Turner, 3 seasons.
There you go.
So let's get into our awards. So the way this will work is that we have the following awards: Player of the Season, nice and easy; Team or Club of the Season, which is just a team, that you
or a club.
like to award for, or a club. Well, a team could be a club, could be a national team. That you'd like to award.
That's a good point, actually. I didn't think about that.
Season.
Yeah.
There you go. Manager of the season, goal of the season, moment of the season. But the biggest one of all is Short King of the season. So the way this will work is that each of us individually will choose their awardee for each of these categories. But Short King of the season must be decided. Like Short King of the week, it must be decided
tonight
and unified upon and official.
Okay. We got to crown someone.
Fergal, we'll crack on. Now, Fergal is not with us, sadly. He's literally on the beach. He's hosted the last 2 episodes, I think, so he's deserved a day off. So, all right, player of the season. I'll start with what Fergal's entry said, which is Erling Haaland. Any rebuttal at all?
No, mine's
because
Haaland
that's
too.
my choice as well. Yeah, it is.
It's pretty hard to argue. No, I would like to. I can't even think of anyone you throw in there. I think the closest to it is probably someone like Harry Kane, which I'm obviously not going to do. But he probably deserves a mention for getting 30 goals in that Spurs team. Some achievement, but no, it has to be, doesn't it? Especially to come in your first season and score the goals he has it's ridiculous.
I would give a shout for Alexis McAllister. Fergal's relative, of course, Fergal's cousin, from Argentina with Scottish roots. World Cup winner, of course, done amazing things with Brighton this season.
What about Julian Alvarez? He's won the World Cup and he's won the treble this season. I mean,
not
played a central role in winning the treble, granted, but
he did. He was kind of
supporting. He was supporting.
Is that the best ever season from a single player? World Cup.
It depends on how much you value their individual input into it, I suppose.
Yeah. Nobody will remember Julian. That will be a pub quiz. Who's the first Argentine player to do so, or whatever?
Yeah.
Or was it the first player? No, the first player in history actually to win the World Cup and the treble in the same year. That will be a pub quiz in the future, but nobody will remember Julian Alvarez straight away, I don't think. The reason why I'm saying Alexis McAllister is that when he was introduced to the starting 11 at the World Cup, second game of the tournament, Argentina changed and eventually won the tournament. So I think a lot of credit should go for him for that. That said, we've mentioned Brighton there. It is Fergal's team of the season. Who are your teams of the season, guys?
Again, probably uncontroversial. This, I think you got to go with Man City. There's a few you could mention. I mean, it's all relative to like the expectations, right? So, a team like Bournemouth or a team like Fulham or a team like Brighton, all massively overperformed their own individual expectations coming into the season, probably, and our expectations of them. I'm sure if you went back and looked at our tables as we did, those teams may be amongst the kind of biggest differentials, but it's hard not to pick a treble-winning team as much as I loathe to do so. So yeah,
George, is it hard to not pick a treble-winning side?
I have not picked a treble-winning side, but
good on you.
Mainly because of what sort of Harry caveated with sort of like expectations. So I was between two clubs, and it was the club I didn't pick first off was Arsenal, and I was going to pick Arsenal. It's such a shame that we're not talking about Arsenal within these sort of conversations because, for example, if you'd flipped their season and they had a bad start and then a good run in but didn't quite make it, but they did well in the back end of the season and pushed Man City a little bit,
isn't it? It's all perception.
Yeah, exactly. Even with the same points, with the same goal difference, with the same results per game, you would perceive it differently. So I do think Arsenal deserve to be in that tier of team of the season, especially with the limited squad they had, and the expectations going in was probably 5th, 4th, trying to get that last Champions League spot. And then for me, but because of that perception, I couldn't pick them.
I know.
It was just so. Yeah, it's Newcastle.
And I forgot to say them. Sorry, in the teams I listed, they're the obvious one actually.
Yeah, to take and unfortunately, kind of half spoiler here for manager, but to take a team that were fighting for relegation a year and a half ago to Champions League is pretty unprecedented, other than Leicester winning the league. So I think he deserves a lot of credit, and the spend hasn't been a joke yet. But we'll see what happens in the future. So yeah, Newcastle, big credit to them.
So with these things, with these awards, I think we're being kind of Premier League centric. Harry's gone for a second there. Hi, Harry.
Sorry.
We're being a little bit Premier League centric, of course, because we do focus mainly on the Premier League. Because 3 of you, all of us are Premier League fans, and 2 of you are English, and the other one's Irish. So yeah, if we weren't being Premier League centric, I would have chosen Lens, second place, of course, in Liga. And just because of the absolute ridicule they've received on Twitter because of playing the Champions League anthem after the last game of the season, with all the lights out and like the phone flashlights ringing, or like turned on at the stands. It was a beautiful scene, but they got ridiculed for it, and I want to give them their flowers. But that said, I chose the Argentine national team as my team of the season.
There you go. So that is why you said team/club.
That makes sense.
If I wasn't clear, sorry. The Premier League is Brighton, just so Brighton were so fun to watch, man. Can I just say, like, I don't want to end the awards without giving them.
And open that can of worms again.
It's so fun. It's a bit of a cliche, but it's true. It's a cliche because it's true. That said, manager of the season, I haven't chosen De Zerbi. I chose Marco Silva because...
Hold on. Who was Fergal's choice?
Oh, Fergal's choice was Gary O'Neill.
No, who was his choice for club?
Oh, Brighton.
Oh, okay.
Did I say Brighton? Yeah, Fergal's choice
I don't know.
Team of the season was Brighton.
Well, you've said it twice now, and you've spoiled his manager choice.
Yeah, as well, we had moved on to manager. It's Gary O'Neill. Gary O'Neill, by the way, Short King of the Week awardee. I believe the only manager to do so this season to be awarded Short King of the Week. So definitely worth a shot. Mine is Marco Silva, just because I put Fulham in 18th in my preseason prediction, and they got like 8th or 9th. So have to give him credit for that. Harry.
Well, I think me and George have the same choice here because he sort of already alluded to it. I picked Eddie Howe. Again, it sort of comes back to the point of expectations and what they've actually delivered. I was quite vocal about Newcastle. Yes, they were very good in the second half of last year. Like, they were a top 4 team in that period. But actually kind of going one step further and doing that over the course of a season with, inflated expectations, I think for me that's enough to say that he's my manager of the season. Amongst stiff competition, there's probably 4 or 5 you could put up there. But for me, that just sort of swayed it to Eddie Howe.
Yeah, no. One more thing on that as well with Eddie Howe is that his taking time out of the game is a really difficult decision, because then you become irrelevant in a way. So what he did was go off and learn, it seems, from the likes of Simeone and other sort of Spanish managers. It's I believe he shadowed a few of them in terms of defensive football. I think it's Sevilla as well, and he's clearly, that's reflected. His time at Bournemouth, he was a little bit naive. He's younger as well, so that naive tag gets thrown around a little bit easier. And he's made his football a little bit more solid. And I think that sort of growth is nice to see in a manager as it is in a player, and you don't really see it as often. So he's
and to that point, there's managers that I think have had a tough few years and kind of lurched from job to job, and the obvious example is probably Frank Lampard, who could learn from actually sometimes you're better off taking a step back and not just taking the first opportunity that comes your way. And I know it's difficult when Chelsea come calling, maybe it's difficult when Everton come calling. I think that was one he potentially could have turned down, but sometimes if you keep failing and you keep doing the same things, then you sort of need an element of sort of looking inwards and actually trying to evolve yourself. So he could learn. I think he's going to be forced to do something like that now, because I just think that his stock is in a place where he's not getting a Premier League job anytime soon. So it might be sort of a good point to hit the pause button and try and evolve a bit as a manager. But it's a good point you make about Eddie Howe, because he's learnt from his own mistakes at Bournemouth and he's come back a better manager for it.
Totally agreed. Can't say much more to that. I wouldn't pick Eddie Howe just because of the financial backing that he ultimately received and was able to spend more than anyone ever at the time in a January transfer window. But the way they used it, we talk about Pep Guardiola, who's probably Premier League manager of the season, right? But giving him the manager of the season would be boring. Probably. Yeah, deserves a lot of credit for the way he ultimately used it and the way he thought of the squad, and obviously thought of the likes of how they used Joe Linton and Miguel Almiron again. So yeah, a lot of players that were there were completely revitalized and used in completely different ways, and it paid off big time. Okay, goal of the season. See, the fact that Julio Enciso, and I know Fergal isn't the only one that chose it, it's a brilliant goal. But why do I feel like it's a bit of an underwhelming pool?
It is.
I think you know why. It's because analytics came into the game. The concept of getting closer to goal makes the chance of goal scoring higher. Became just completely prominent in any team's operation. And therefore the goals were pretty standard. Nobody takes a pop from 40 yards anymore. Unlike 2006, December 2006.
You've beaten me to that. You've beaten me. I was about to say, if you ever want sort of nomination, that is you're never going to. They were all in 1 month.
It's 1
There's
month,
like
wasn't
6
it?
or 7
Yeah.
goals.
Yeah.
December 2006.
Yeah.
You won't see anything like it. Like they are goal of the season, they're goal of the decade nominations. Some of those there,
Absolutely.
and they all came in 1 month. I mean, they are better than anything we saw this year. Like no doubt, 4 or 5 of those minimum.
Yeah.
But yeah,
you
like
won't,
this,
and you won't see anyone like trying out these things anymore. Johnny Otto saw Ilan Meslier out of his goal and kind of lobbed him from 50 yards, or 40 yards. But like that's like the goal was so empty and Meslier was so out of position that nobody's really nominating it. But there's the spectacularity of goals is rapidly declining. But Julio Enciso, credit to him for attempting that.
And I was watching the Premier League goals of the season clips that they put up just to refresh myself and try and think of one.
Yeah,
and even the Scorpion kick that was scored and put in that compilation was rubbish compared to like the Giroud and Mkhitaryan sort of Scorpion kicks. I mean, you think back. I mean, for me, like iconic goals are like Van Persie volley, 2 Van Persie volleys, one at Arsenal, one at Man United, drop over the shoulder.
And the Charlton Athletic one way back.
Yeah, and when he's jumping in the air, exactly. And then like the Drogba goal where he chests it down like
Everton
40 yards out and just like disgust. They don't, why do they not?
In that compilation, that Drogba goal.
Well, there was one in the that was
in the December
2006, exactly.
Yeah.
But for me, it was the Julian Alvarez goal against Fulham was my goal of the season. Good footwork, then just whips it top corner. At first, it looks like he got really lucky, but it's actually really great bit of dribbling and a goal. I mean, you could have picked any of them. They were standard long shots, to be honest. I didn't think any of them were special.
Yeah. I chose what to me felt the most like spectacular looking of them and really unique and most difficult to execute as well.
Yeah,
and I think it's such an underrated goal. Miguel Almiron against Fulham away when he plays a pass back to
that's a good shout.
Bruno Guimaraes chips it in, and he has to adjust himself and come to a stop when he realizes where the ball is kind of going. And just whip it with the outside of the foot, on the volley, and it curves outside and to the bottom corner from the far side. I don't know, Enciso's been getting so many shouts of goal of the season, and I just don't.
I think that's because of the move,
that's
though.
been scored.
No, but I think it's because of the move. It's part of what I chose that goal, and Fergal chose it, and I think it's because of it's kind of because it's the culmination of basically everything Brighton do in terms of their actual philosophy, the way they play, and what they're trying to do when they play against opposition.
It's a brilliant goal, scored by a random youngster that we'd never heard of before this season.
Yeah.
Well, random youngster makes it seem degrading, but no, you know what I mean.
No, it wasn't a couple of months ago. He scored a good goal against Chelsea as well. I don't know if that one was on there.
There was a couple of goals against Chelsea, to be honest, that were decent.
There were a couple goals against Chelsea scored. That is for sure.
Yeah,
quite a few. In fact.
Yeah. I do agree. Though my general takeaway from it was pretty underwhelming. There wasn't an obvious choice, and there probably usually is with these things.
So, to go back very briefly on the Almiron one as well. The reason I wouldn't be able to pick that is because Almiron looks so unintentional with all of his play, and there's something about him that is just clumsy.
Really?
It just doesn't look smooth.
He's just shinned it in. He's trying to take it down.
It just looks like he's trying to take a first
I'm surprised
touch.
to say that. I'm surprised to say that. I don't know if it's because I watched it for Atlanta United before I went to Newcastle. Or I love Almiron. Yeah. I've watched Almiron play since 2017. Since he came to MLS. He's so good, man. I'm very surprised.
Yeah.
I think his purple patch ran out in the end. To be fair.
Yeah. So
point.
So I had Almiron. You had Enciso, George, or what was yours? Sorry,
Alvarez.
Yeah, I had Alvarez.
Sorry. You had Enciso for Enciso. So Enciso actually won the majority.
Happy with that.
Your moment of the season. Now Fergal went with Evan Ferguson's first Premier League goal, of course. Scored in a.
That was against Arsenal, wasn't it? Yeah. That was against Arsenal.
Yeah.
There's a consolation. So I mean, that's a ridiculous shout, to be honest. But
yeah, but it's because 18-year-old Ireland don't have any strikers, and that was the moment of, oh my god, we have a striker scoring in the Premier League. Yeah. If you come from a country that isn't like on top of the footballing world, not a great of the greats, and don't have very many good players, like Egypt. Like when Salah was coming through, we were geeking out. That was all the country was talking about at the time. When he went to Roma, not even before Liverpool, it was such a massive thing. And so when you have a player scoring in the Premier League, it's a massive deal for Ireland. So yeah,
it just represents quite a poor season for Chelsea, really, doesn't it?
Yeah,
if that's his moment of the season.
He did put another one in.
Yeah,
I think it's a good shout, but the fact that he put two, I don't know what to do now. I don't know. You decide.
Let's get the second shout because I'm underwhelmed, to be honest.
It is the Big Sam moment when in the press conference when he said he's better than Pep, which I love that. I actually really
it didn't age very well though, did it? He collected 1 point and got them relegated.
It's part of the charm.
Yeah.
Harry, what did you pick?
I picked the Nelson goal. I think with all of these, like, you have to separate kind of what comes afterwards. With it's what happens in these moments, and that goal is probably it's one of my favourite goals we've ever scored at the Emirates. To be fair, I wasn't there for the Leicester goal. I actually wasn't at that game, so I can't speak to kind of what that felt like. In fact, my actual general kind of feeling with that goal is probably one where I look ahead and think, but we didn't win the league that year, just because I wasn't there in that moment. But with this one, I was, and I mean, it's a great goal as well. I mean, that's sort of an underrated shout for one of the goals of the season. Just an unbelievable strike off his left, and
I don't know about all of the season.
No, listen, it's a low bar, mate. We've already been through this, but it's a great goal. It's a great moment. Just for me, it was nothing really came close. In truth, across the course of the season, I couldn't think of an obvious one. And I think that was the game of the season, to be honest with you. So for me, that was it. If we'd gone on and won it, then I'd be able to sit here and make probably a stronger case for it. But at the moment, it was pretty incredible. Just a bog standard, like Saturday 3 p.m. as well. Like you just don't.
Yeah, it wasn't on TV. Disgrace.
No, I know. It was like the most. I think the most routine 3 or 4-0 win, and it's almost. Yeah. It's sometimes the games you never expect.
Sometimes I remember watching that goal, and I'll get to my moment of the season later. But I do remember watching that goal, and just thinking of what your reaction would have like genuinely the first thought of the game to land was like, oh my god, Harry's there. Like, yeah, wow. I'm jealous. George.
Moment of the season. If I didn't pick a Chelsea one, if you're forcing me to pick a Chelsea one, which you're not, but I'd probably have to pick. If it was a Chelsea one, I'd have to pick our goal of the month for April, which was an absolute screamer from Conor Gallagher, and the only goal we scored in April.
That's such a good shout.
No, but for me, it's the moment of the season was Doucouré's winner. To keep them up. The reason why
is much better, George.
The reason why is like he almost had his own redemption arc as well in terms of being obviously dropped by Frank. I've always really liked him as a player as well. So yeah, and then to come back and score that to keep a pretty massive club in the Premier League is special for them. That's probably the best moment for a single club in the Premier League. Although obviously bittersweet for the Everton fans being in that situation anyway, but yeah, that's I think the best moment of the season. I might have to squeeze this one in actually. Scoring at St James's, myself in a blue shirt.
We didn't talk about this. We didn't talk about this.
Seen that. But no, apart from that, definitely the
Sorry,
goal.
George, we didn't discuss this on the podcast yet. You scored at St James's Park. You own it, man. This is your you can put it as your moment of the season. It's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, scoring a Premier League stadium. charity match. I mean, if you want me to describe it, it's keeper's made an absolutely unbelievable save, went straight at him, parried it out. I've taken a touch, Cruyff turn, sold the defender, fake shot into a Cruyff turn, left foot, weak foot, bottom corner. Pochettino, if you're watching, Ron might not be coming back. Havertz is awful.
Yeah,
give me a call.
And he's a short king. He's like
and
5'6".
I'm a short king. Yeah.
Can't go wrong with a short king. Yeah. Congrats, man. Congrats. That was cool. My moment of the season in a very Evan Ferguson scores a Premier League goal kind of fashion, but like even worse. Initially, I wrote Brendan Aronson scoring for Leeds United, but then it was as a joke, and then I kind of deleted it, and then went for Reece Nelson, and then deleted it, and then I remembered a few days ago when Alexis Picasso signed for Liverpool, when Fergal told the story of Alexis Picasso being related to him, and that's my moment of the season. You have direct connection. Fergal has a direct connection to Alexis Picasso, which I think is such a cool story. That's kind of my moment. So I'll just stick to that. Definitely one of the podcast's moments of the season, I would say. Okay, guys, the big one. Short king of the season. The biggest, the most prized award of the podcast. Fergal, first of all. He wrote this. Bernardo Silva for the moment, but I might change it. So, will have to be Bernardo Silva, but he's not sure. So half a vote for Bernardo Silva there. He's not quite sure. Yeah. He's on the beach. Come on. Who are your short kings of the season and why? Harry, please give me your short king of the season.
He's already been mentioned here, and he's already been mentioned because I crowned him short king of the week for the first time as a manager. It's Gary O'Neill. He's my short king of the season.
Yeah,
all right.
He's my short king of the season. I think he's very unlucky not to get my manager of the season, and so I thought, sort of killed two birds with one stone here. Fits the criteria. I think he's done a great job keeping Bournemouth up, and I couldn't think of anyone more deserving. So he gets my shout for short king of the season for 2022-23.
Yeah, definitely the fact that he was the first manager to be awarded short king of the season, short king of the week. Sorry, is definitely a massive plus. He's definitely done an amazing job of keeping Bournemouth up because they were going absolutely nowhere, and Parker was kind of like after that 9-0 against Liverpool, or the game after, around that time, he was like, we're doomed. These players aren't good enough to stay in the Premier League, and that's just the reality of it, and everyone should deal with it. Which was quite bizarre. But Gary O'Neill was like, you know what, we'll give it a go. And he did. Give it a go, he did. And yeah, it's definitely it's a better shot than Bernardo Silva, which feels just like so standard. Bernardo Silva is a shout coming from someone that would definitely be on the beach.
He's half-assed it. It's poor from Fergal. It's poor.
Yeah, it's poor.
It's poor. For the most prize award as well. Actually, I'm just like thinking of rescinding his vote.
Yeah. I'm happy with that.
I'm happy with that. Yeah.
Happy with that. All right. Do better next season. George.
Yeah, I don't think it was a good season for short kings, to be honest. I feel like football's moving away into this robot 6'6" Haaland beast sort of territory, which is sad. Even Man City getting proper defenders to defend. Newcastle having everyone of sort of a certain height in their defense. Yeah, it's a bit sad. So I think the pool was pretty limited. I picked someone that ironically stood out in their team for despite being a short king. I went with Ward-Prowse. I think to have a good season, a decent season, when finishing bottom of the league is an achievement in of itself. And I couldn't really think of anyone else. Really couldn't. I was Googling. I was like, Matoma 5'10", Caicedo, 5'10". Yeah, all of these players.
We've tried to give him Short King of the Week before.
Kieran Trippier, 5'10". It was
no.
Yeah,
I think we've been through Trippier before. I think that was a spoof.
I don't know what it is, but I could not find anyone below 5'10". They were all 5'10". I don't know if it was
I'm
just
absolutely sure
that
we've
wasn't
been
working.
through Kieran Trippier on this podcast. I'm going to look it up.
Should be. I mean, if Kieran Trippier is smaller than 5'10", if he's 5'9", I'll absolutely take Trippier. But something about it.
See, you've been had here, George, because
is it
on Wikipedia he's 5'10".
Yeah,
but on Transfermarkt he's 1.73 m, which is closer to. It's not 5'10".
But he's not 173. There's no chance he's that
173 to me.
173. That's quite short.
Yeah. That's 5'8", I think.
He's not 5'8", though. He's taller than 5'8".
I don't think he is.
173 is 5'8".
Yeah, but he's 5'10" on.
Yeah, that's not really to get this one. He said George Prowse. George Prowse.
George Prowse.
George Prowse.
Can I just massively disagree with what James Ward-Prowse shot, because did we even give him a Short King of the Week award? He's had a bad season.
No one's been good. No one's been good.
There's been two phenomenal Short Kings. First of all, you say it's not been a good season for Short King of the Week. You know what? Lionel Messi was confirmed as the king of all Short Kings that have ever been of all time by winning the World Cup. He's 5'7". Come on.
That's outside of.
The greatest player of all time is just Short King, George, and that's just been confirmed in November. But the other one, which is my Short King of the season, Vinicius Jr.
Yeah, I see what you're doing. You're in attempt. On the strings. You are. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if it's cheating or not. But I just think because of what he went through, he deserves a shout. That said, though, if we were talking from a footballing standpoint, it just says Messi. He's coming from MLS. Like he's chosen to come to the United States to play football. Like that that was unimaginable just 1 year ago, when there were all these rumors about Inter are gonna try to bring in Sergio Busquets, Messi, and Luis Suarez. Nah, it's just not gonna happen, right? But apparently it did. The
fact, right.
Messi.
The fact that Fergal picked a player who I don't think he started most games this season. Harry's chosen a manager. You've chosen a player that last week you wouldn't have chosen because he's only just signed whenever he signed for Miami. That is how bad this year has been. I'm not being slated for Ward-Prowse. It's been an awful year for Short Kings. Next year will be better.
Oh, come on. No. Hopefully next week, because we strive for improvement for our Short Kings, but I massively disagree with your assertion there that it's been a bad year for Short Kings, because it has been not. It has been not English. Okay, how are we gonna sell this? I don't know. Should we sell this by like a Twitter vote?
I think we'll have to, because
it's an important
it's an important award. All right. Let us know on Twitter, and then we'll announce the winner. I don't know, maybe 3 days from the time we release this episode. You'll find the tweet to Short King of the Season's vote in the description below. But yeah, I thought we'd sell it now. Apparently not. Wow. Okay, guys, it's been a pleasure. Yeah. It was a hard season. It was a long season. As a podcast, I think we've definitely had our good moments and down moments, and we've skipped and inconsistencies, but also very good times. So yeah, this is I don't really get to say this, but I'm very thankful for what the podcast has allowed me to do, and kind of keep a connection with three very good friends on a weekly basis, or some of you on a weekly basis. Sometimes I don't see you for 3 weeks. But no, it's great, and yeah, last season, this past season was one where I feel like I could have done more for the podcast. I did work 3 jobs though, so hopefully, like I want the podcast to grow. I'm not gonna lie. Like this is still gonna be like my main passion project next season. I know I have a full-time job as well, out of school, graduated, all good. So yeah, hopefully next season you see more consistency, just better production quality. Just I don't know. We'll kind of spend. Is it 3 weeks before preseason starts, or we start like talking about our Premier League tables again, the table predictions? Yeah, it's gonna come in very soon. But yeah, I look forward to next season. I feel like we did good things. Last year was like the 2022 calendar year was a really good year for the podcast. Just statistically from the numbers, the videos, Kareem's come in and they've been kind of better. And yeah, I just thank you guys and hope we can continue this together and move forward with the podcast and make it bigger, make it better. More ideas.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. That was season 3. That was season 3 of Just a Little Podcast. Unbelievable. We'll be back with season 4. I don't know when. It's probably gonna be close to the start of the Premier League season, I assume, or some sort of a transfer recap when it happens.
We need stuff to start happening first.
We need stuff to start happening, indeed. But yeah, we'll talk about that. I'm sure. Okay. See you guys in season 4. Thank you if you've ever watched or interacted with the podcast in any way. But yeah, from an empty apartment in Richmond, Virginia, and from somewhere around Newcastle and somewhere around London. Yeah, it's goodbye from us. Season 3 out.
Thank you.